Welcome back to Access Anime. I'm Henshin Ikeda, and today I'll be doing a walkthrough and review of Blast of Tempest Episode 6. Now, if you remember from last episode, we were introduced to two new characters, Tetsume from the Kasarabi clan, and Hoshimaru from also the Kasarabi clan, so that was kind of interesting. Now, Tetsume kind of looks cool, but he's very arrogant in my opinion, and he's got a tattoo or scar on his eye, and we find out he was defeated in the last episode, per se. It was kind of a stalemate, thanks to Muharu, but that was Tetsume. Now our other new character is Hoshimaru, and he is also from the Kasarabi clan, and he actually ended the episode last time where we're at his apartment, and it's kind of like a college setting per se, because he's, I guess, a college student, and he is part of the Kasarabi clan, but he's more of a neutral party. And we find out a lot of disturbing news about what actually happened to Hokage. Apparently Hoshimaru is under the delusion that Hokage is actually dead thanks to Simon, or in this case I pronounce it wrong, it's Simon, showing him apparently the corpse of Hokage, which was actually just a skeleton body. So that was kind of interesting. But again, that was the last episode, and this is a new episode. So let's dive right in. And again, I'll keep my comment and my general rating at the end of the clip, so stay tuned. But let's dive right in. Let's get dirty. We open up this episode. Again, we're at Hoshimaru's apartment, and he's basically describing how Hokage is dead, and he's, he has, I guess, a little miniature shrine with a picture of her in his apartment, and he's, I guess, praying or worshipping her in his own way. But in reality, Hokage isn't dead. But we find out that Simon actually ended up summoning Hoshimaru to his establishment or house, and they were checking out Hokage's body, which he actually brought back, which was just a skeleton. So apparently Hoshimaru is under the delusion that Hokage is dead based on the corpse which Simon actually had, which was a skeleton. Now, I'm no doctor or scientist, but someone shows you a corpse, unless there's DNA evidence that that belongs to that person, a skeleton really, that isn't going to do anything for me. I mean, you see Simon describing how he ended up, I guess, poisoning or sickening Hokage, putting her in a barrel and trapping her on an island. Basically, he was telling Hoshimaru the truth to an extent, and then he ended up saying he went back to the island, found the body, and, it was just a skeleton. And again, Hoshimaru was just there to validate that that was actually her corpse. Now, I'm still very unsure if Hoshimaru believes that Hokage is actually dead, because he later on describes that I can see Hokage probably putting something in a bottle and, getting more people involved if she was still alive. So that's a little confusing there. But that was an interesting scene, but we're moving on. We actually see, I guess, Yoshino and Muharu taking the briefcase that was actually at Hoshimaru's apartment. He ends up giving him that metal case, which we still don't know what's inside, and they board a bus and they're gone. And we end up seeing the fruit of Exodus in the background, because Yoshino sees those little butterflies, so there's a fruit of Exodus that has appeared. Now apparently Yoshimaru, he actually notices, so that was kind of interesting. And I should also point out, Hoshimaru, he cannot use magic or talismans, so that's kind of interesting. And again, he's neutral, and he is technically no longer with the Kasarabi clan, yet he still has some connection to it because of Hokage. Now, we see Natsumari appear. That's right, he's back. Now, see, the sad part is he's not there to take out Yoshino or Muharu, but in fact, he was there to get Hoshimaru, to get him to the Kasarabi clan, for Yoshimaru to actually pick sides. Now, this was interesting. Hoshimaru ends up telling Natsumari, if I have to pick a side, it's not going to be Simon's side, it's going to be Hokage's. Now that's if he actually believes she's alive, of course. But again, Natsumari ends up failing. He does not get Hoshimaru onto his side, and this was epic. I thought there was going to be a huge battle, but there wasn't. But Natsumari ends up attacking Hoshimaru to bring him back to the Kasarabi clan, I guess. And Yoshimaru does a Rock Lee thing, from Naruto Shippuden, because Rock Lee doesn't use normal jutsus. He's a taijutsu master. So this was kind of interesting, because you see Hoshimaru, he's not using magic, he can't use magic, he doesn't have a talisman. somehow he avoids Natsumori and he defeats him without even trying. But again, that was a depressing battle because we don't get to see a lot of fighting. It was just cut and dry. Hoshimaru wins. So that was kind of interesting. And he does not join the Kasarabi clan, at least not Seimin side, so I should point that out. He's not with Seimin. Natsumori is, but Hoshimaru isn't. Now, we're taken to a different scene where we see Yoshino and Muharu. They're opening up the case, and we get to find out what's in this huge metal case that Hokage left to Hoshimaru, and it's a machine gun. It's not a talisman, it was a machine gun wrapped in chains. So apparently they have to, I guess, go to one of the trees. I'm not sure if it was Exodus or the Genesis tree, and they're going to offer it to get something back. They're going to make an offering with it. So that was kind of interesting. But again, it's not a talisman, unless you want to correct me that it is. To my knowledge, it is not a talisman. And it was kind of interesting. You see that machine gun, like, okay, sweet, so, you know, mages using machine guns? Yeah, no, don't get that wrong impression, because, yeah, that doesn't exist. Now, again, it's nighttime right now. They're at a campfire, and they're being surrounded by men in uniform. And Muharu is the only one that notices this, and at the last moment he tells Yoshino, yeah, we're being surrounded. And like, be ready to move, but before they can move, they're jumped by the government. It looks like gas, little cans are put in front of the fire, like I think it's tear gas or sleeping gas, and they kind of are knocked out. But Muharu was able to get at least 1 or 2 punches out, but again, they were both captured. Now, we assume when they were captured, Muharu was going to be captured as well, but it was just Yoshino, and they didn't even take the briefcase. I mean, what was that about? But, you know, I'll get into that later why. Now we see Yoshino in the car with Mrs. who? Yamamoto. She's back. Oh, she's back. So that's kind of interesting. So Miss Yamamoto is back, and she has Yoshino with them, and they're like buddy-buddy. Now we get to find out what was the deal they made a couple episodes ago. Remember, I told you this was bothering me, but we get to find out. Now, she's taking him to, I guess, her headquarters, and they have, I guess, 2 Hummers or Humvees that are there escorting her in her little car. And we get a new character. Yes, another character is being introduced. His name is I can't even pronounce his name, so I'll just pronounce, I think his first name is Takumi, and his name's Hayakua Takumi, and apparently he is the assistant director of the Black Iron Syndrome Countermeasures Force. So that's kind of interesting. So we get to actually meet Miss Yamamoto's boss and childhood friend. So that was kind of interesting. Now, I should also point out what the deal that Yoshino made with Mrs. Yamamoto. Apparently, he was going to inform them, because this is the government. So these guys are the government. They're not mages, they're not magicians or wizards or whatnot. They're the government. And again, this is a counter task force. The deal was that Yoshino would get involved with this plan. He gets to actually know what the assistant director's plans are to take out these mages, as well as Yoshino has to tell them everything about what he knows, also hand over those talismans. Now, we don't know what talismans he handed over to them and whether or not he took them back when he left. Now, if you remember, Hokage said, no one can use these talismans unless I give them permission. And you see Miss Yamamoto pretty much running her mouth saying, well, I finally get to join the group and become a mage. And I was like, no, there's no way in hell you're going to become a mage, Miss Yamamoto. I mean, you're an attractive character, and, you know, I like you to an extent, because you have, like, I don't know, like a Ghost in the Shell type of complex going on. Yeah, I went there. But you don't have Hokage's permission to use the talismans, so therefore they're ineffective for you in general. But sorry, I digress. So basically, Yoshino is like the informant. Anything he knows about the mages or Muharu goes straight to them, so he's kind of like the mole. But again, we know Yoshino is kind of the smart one, because he already has chosen a side to be with. So he's got the government side mixed with Hokage's, you know, magical side. So, you know, he's playing both fields, just not the Kasarabi clan field yet. Now, we find out he does hand over those talismans, but in return, he gets 2 canisters. It looks like tear gas or some type of gas that are in these 2 cans. and he asks for Miss Yamamoto's sidearm, that little pistol. Now, I'm kind of surprised why he didn't check how many cartridges were left, how many bullets were left in it, and why didn't he want more, like 2 or 3 more clips to go with it, but we don't know why he wanted it, so that was kind of interesting. And again, I keep saying this, he hands over his talisman, but when he ends up leaving, you notice he uses one of them, so he still has a talisman on him, so that's kind of interesting. Now, Muohara ends up waking up, and he's pissed, doesn't know where Yoshino is. Now, he leaves his communicator behind that he talks to Hokage with. That's left behind, his briefcase is left behind, he just goes ballistic and runs after Yoshino. Now, eventually he catches up, and it was kind of interesting. He doesn't know why they took Yoshino, but Muohara was just all gung-ho about this. And Yoshino ends up bailing after he gets the gun and the 2 canisters and handing over the talisman. He pretends like he just escapes, and Muohara goes after him to save him. Now, we also find out, kind of interesting, Miss Yamamoto ends up telling Yoshino about Muohara's sister. Now, apparently, Yoshino, I guess, already knew this, but apparently, Muohara's sister is not his blood-related sister. And trust me, at the end of this walkthrough and review, you'll find out why this is so important. But anyways, I digress. Let me move on. Now you see Yoshino and Muohara. Apparently they have escaped. Now we don't know if this was planned on and where Yoshino actually stands with the government, but they're cool with it. That's all I can tell you, they're cool with it. And we see, I guess, a little cutscene after you see Yoshino and Muohara go back to the campsite. So they have the briefcase again, they have the communicator talk to Hokage, and I guess Yoshino's kind of pondering or thinking, why was this so easy to convince Muohara that he escaped, or, you know, nothing is what it appears to be, you know? He believes Muohara was easy to convince that this was all by coincidence, or something along those lines, if any of that makes sense. So I'm guessing Muohara is playing dumb because he treasures Yoshino's friendship so much. So that's what I'm assuming right now. Now, again, the end of the episode, we do a small cutscene where we see Muohara talking to his sister, and she mentions about being his woman, and she's like making a sexual gesture, you know, her legs between his lap, and she's like really close to say, so you want me to be your woman? I'm like, okay, this isn't incest technically because they're not blood related, but it's a big scratch, like little scratch on your head. You're like, wait, so is Muohara in love with his supposed sister? What's going on? But again, that's where the scene ends, so definitely a WTF moment, because I think Muohara's trying to find the killer of his sister because maybe he had a thing for his sister, and wow, I don't know what that says about Yoshino. Did he know about this? All we know is he knew that Muohara's sister wasn't his blood-related sister. That's all we know. But again, that ends it for that. Now, for final thoughts, again, is there a relationship between Muohara and his sister beyond just brotherly love there? We don't know. And as for Natsumori, is there going to be more of a battle scene between him and Yoshimaru? We don't know. I mean, what side is Yoshimaru really on? He says Hokage's side, but you know, he's a neutral player without magic. We don't know. And Seimin, where on earth is he right now in the episode? All we know is when you're watching this episode, we notice that Yoshino and Muohara now have permission from Hokage to go to Seimin's headquarters and take him out. But we don't get to know where this guy's at. Has he moved? We don't know. But what we do know is Natsumori tried to recruit Yoshimaru. That's what we do know. Now, I don't know if the talismans that Yoshino gave to Takumi, if those were actually his talismans, or, you know, were they just a pile of rocks? Because, you know, Takumi never opened the talismans up, you know, that little blanket of talisman to see, are they actually there? No, we don't know. Second of all, when Yoshino left Tokima, again, who is the assistant director of the Black Iron Syndrome Countermeasure Force, are these talisman that he handed off actually legit, we don't know. Because remember, Hokaze has to give you permission to use them. So I don't know if that's a thorn in your paw or not there. But again, that ends it for my final thoughts. As for my rating, okay, being very blunt and very honest, the battle scenes really sucked in this episode. I mean, if it wasn't for Natsumori versus Hoshimaru, I would have thought something different. That battle was so cut. It wasn't long, it wasn't stretched out, it was just small. And the government taking out Muharu and Yoshino and then capturing Yoshino per se, again, that was short-lived. We lost a lot of points there. Now again, this was a lot of information though. We get to know more about Miss Yamamoto and Yoshino, the little pact they made. So I have to give props, points there. So 4.5, no, 4 out of 5. I almost said 4.5, I meant 4. This deserves a 3.5 out of 5, but I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 because we got a little more information, more about Muharu's sister, as well as Miss Yamamoto, and we're introduced to a new character, so 4 out of 5. But that ends it for my walkthrough and review of Blast of Tempest Episode 6. Now, as for what I'll also be doing for today, I've still got 3 more walkthroughs and reviews to do, so definitely stay tuned. But again, comment down below and let me know, subscribe above if that's what you love, and definitely comment as much as you want, because I want to know what you think of this episode, as well as what you think is going to happen in the next upcoming episode. But again, that ends it for today, for now anyways. Before I go, I gotta say it. Can't stop the access, but you can watch the feed. I'll see you later, guys.